and I've just been completely smashed. Like I can't keep up with the inquiries. I've got Thursday and Fridays already nearly fully booked, and Saturday and Sunday I've got quite a few bookings, and then Monday it's been crazy, too crazy that I've been stressing out.
So I think where we need to begin,
Hmm.
and this will be really useful exercise for you and also to make sure that we do get the most out of this call, is
Hmm.
there's heaps going on in this document.
Yeah, so much.
We need to get clear. Yeah. And like there's lots of good stuff, right?
Yeah, it's overwhelmingly good. It's a good problem to have, but yeah, I need to pull my finger out and set up something. I don't know what I need to do, but I need to manage it better.
I think put that stuff to the side for the moment because to an extent, business is always messy.
Mm.
There's always an element of, and I'll explain why in a second. There's always an element of mess because really what we want to be doing is spending 80% of our time on 20% of the tasks that produce the most money.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you take that approach, what it means is by default, you're ignoring 80% of the things that you could be doing. And what happens is a mess builds up. It'd be kind of like imagine if you had an apartment and just 20% of the apartment mattered most for some reason to keep it clean. But then the
Mm.
rest of the apartment, the 80% is going to get messy, right? But because you're so laser focused on just this 20% spot being clean, and because that matters the most, because it gives you the most results, by default, you can't help but have the other 80% messy. And in fact, businesses that are like that, particularly in the beginning, often more successful, as opposed to if you're spreading your energy across, all 100%. And the reality is you just can't go as hard in any of it, but not all
Yeah.
parts of the business are created equal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So don't worry about the messiness of this. Where we
Mhm.
need to begin
Yeah.
is we need to get clear on what is our highest priority right now. Like, what do we actually want to achieve? What is the one goal that's most important? When we know what that is, then what we need to do is identify what is the top 20%, the most important priority for us to actually be doing to make that goal happen. So, you know, if it is that you're overwhelmed with inquiries, we can talk about that. Usually, most businesses' highest goal is often that they want to make more money. And
100%. Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
when we clarify that, then what we need to do is look at what thing, if we fix or improve, is most likely to give us that result fastest, like now. That's kind of how we need to think.
Yeah, I think for mine is definitely availability and being available as often as I possibly can. Like maybe having a permanent in-call location or a shared in-call location, because time-wise I can be available pretty much anytime. I think I just need a place where I can just take bookings like now.
Okay, so let's just backtrack for a second.
Okay.
So in 2 days, you've made 7 grand.
Yeah.
Is it right that our goal is to like increase that number so you make more than 7K in another 2 days?
So you mean like in 4 days total, or do you mean just in the same 2 days, like just increase my availability?
I mean, we want to define the goal. Is the goal to make more money in the same or less amount of time?
Oh, I would say yeah, either the same or less amount of time.
Awesome. Okay, so share my screen. Let's go through this process together sequentially.
Okay.
So the 7K ride that you made in 2 days.
It was actually a bit more than that, actually. I think it was like 7.5 maybe, or closer to 8.
All right. So before we define the goal, which is going to be our first step, right? So we're going to go through this list together called most important tasks. I'm going to give this to you and you can do this on your own at any time for any problem, whether it be in your business or your personal life. And you can refer back to it if you ever get lost as well.
Okay.
So this is the first thing that we always need to start is like, what are we actually trying to do? Because there is so much happening, right? Like we will understandably get to the end of the day and feel like, fuck, there were 50 texts I didn't reply to. I need to figure out how to reply to more texts.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then when we actually ask ourselves, what is the goal? The goal isn't really to reply to more text, right? Like, what is like that in and of itself isn't what we're trying to achieve. Because I'm sure that your like point of doing this isn't to like reply to text messages.
yeah, yeah,
But like that is one of the actions that deliver us the income, but we need to like get clear in our own minds that it's the income that we're like typically really going after.
yeah.
So to give me like a bit more understanding, because it sounds like you've been working the last few months, you're doing one thing, kind of getting other stuff set up. So this massage profile, which I love by the way, has just gone live and it was up for like 2 days and you've worked for 2 days and made 7K. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So made 7K in 2 days. All right. So before we just like jump to more money,
Mhm,
I mean, put this specific profile aside right now. Let's backtrack or zoom out even more and go,
mhm.
okay, what's your goal? What's your personal income goal per week at the moment? What would you like
Oh,
to be making?
so I actually did all of this before I, launched this profile. So my first goal was to hit 10K, then my second goal after that was to hit 20. I feel like if I am working more days, I can absolutely hit 20
And in what period of time is that?
in 5 or 6 days, so in a week.
Okay. So is it your goal right now to make 20K? Like you just want to make 20K full stop, or you want to be making 20K per week?
Per week.
Okay. And why specifically that number? Aside from the obvious of, oh, Isabel, because I like want more money, because we all want more money, but where has the specificity of 20K come from?
I actually wrote this all down, but I had set some goals that I wanted to achieve, and in order for me to achieve them, I obviously need money. For each, I guess, goal that I had set for myself, personal goals, they all require a different level of income.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where I decided on the certain numbers from 10K to 20K, like as I'm raising, as I'm increasing my goal, my target from 10K to 20K, I'll be able to do more things like focus more on my health, pay down some of my debts, or what was the other thing? I think health was my main one. Like there's still other tests and stuff that I need to go and get, but I'm not at that point where I can financially afford them because I've got other debts. But
Hmm.
my main focus was primarily health and then eventually having the income to be able to support my parents because they're getting old. They're old. They're like in their 70s. So,
Okay. Understand. All right. Cool. So 10K to 20K per week is the current income goal. Understand that. Now, like the first thing I see is you made 7K in 2 days.
yeah,
My immediate question is like, if you're planning on working for 7 days, let's even just be, God, did you say six, sorry, or seven?
I will 100% work 7 days if I have my own place. I used to work 3 weeks straight and then take just my period week off and then just work 3 weeks straight again. Like I can work. I just need my own place. So I'll start with six, but seven if I can.
All right. Well, why don't we even just be conservative for the sake of the conversation?
Okay.
Let's say you just committed to working 5 days a week.
Okay.
On these numbers, the first thing I see is I would say, okay, but if you just do exactly what you did for the last 2 days, for the next 3 days, we're currently on track to do 10K. I mean, if we just said it's going to be the same, so that's 3.5K a day. If you do 3.5 thousand times five, you're at 17,500. You've hit the goal by making actually absolutely zero change. Like, and obviously that's a very early hypothesis,
Mm, mm.
but that's immediately where my mind goes to is all
Yeah.
right, what you're doing is effectively working regardless of all this seemingly mess, which is not actually mess. This is just a
Okay.
business, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And look, it could be your stress levels, and I'm not disregarding that. We will talk about that because that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we bring this, if let's start with facts, right? And then we'll introduce the human element because the human element is also factual.
Yeah.
But this is why we need to get super clear of okay, I want to make 10 to 20K per week. We can only go off data that is available based on what's occurred, which is so far this 7K in 2 days.
Mhm.
What people usually often do, myself included, is they fix what isn't broken and they set themselves back.
Okay.
Because right now, you're actually, if you just did literally nothing but exactly what you've done for 2 days, we have no reason to yet believe until it happens that this isn't going to work. But if you
Yeah.
change what you've been doing, the likelihood of it not working to hit this number certainly becomes a higher probability because we're changing a
Mm,
working system.
okay.
So, my question to you is there any reason you cannot, despite the discomfort of the mess, can you just repeat exactly what you've done for the last 2 days for at least the next 3 days? Is that possible?
Well, I've already nearly booked up the next 3 days, so
Hmm,
I'm pretty confident that I could definitely do it.
great. That is great. So, the way that we would do this, if, like, let's say you came to me and you said, I wanted to make 10K in a week, Isabel, but for the last 3 months, I've only made 2K a week. What do I do? The conversation we would have is what we need to look for are the limiting constraints. Like, what are the problems that are stopping us from going from 2 to 10K?
I think I already know the answers to these. The limit in availability for me at the time, which was based on,
So I'll just stop you there.
okay.
I'm not asking you that question just yet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just
Okay.
explaining how this works, but I'm actually gonna circle back to you in just a second.
Okay, okay, yeah, cool, cool.
So if somebody came to me and they were at 2K and wanted to be at 10K and they had real data that showed they weren't getting there,
Mhm.
that's when we would go into this investigative process of okay, like what is happening, and we'd have conversation to identify these constraints, which could be some of the stuff that you've just said. Like I might look at their availability and find out, well, Sarah, you're only available 1 day a week. Like that's a
Yeah,
constraint.
yeah.
And there's heaps of other ones right now. We kind of don't need to go to this step, although if we did, the problem that we probably need to solve is either your stress level, or the potential barrier to this right now is probably the highest risk, honestly, is you changing a working system.
Mm,
So the
okay.
problem, and I say this with love, really becomes ourselves
Yeah.
or like our stress around the issue. And that's usually to do with the perception of the issue. But if we look at hard data right now, there is no problem per se with these figures coming to life. Like we have no reason to think, and particularly since you've just said the next 3 days are fully booked. It's like, well, right now, if this is truly the goal, truly, you're on track to achieve that goal. And the most important thing you can do is to do nothing but keep doing what's working and to discipline yourself to not change it.
Oh, okay. Alright.
What are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts are, which you're probably gonna come back to this later, but no, I'm actually pretty happy with that. My mind is just going so many different places. I've got so many things I wanna say, but no, I'm happy with that.
Cool. Yeah. And look, I think that's like the blessing and the curse of the entrepreneurial mind, you know?
Yeah.
I have these conversations with my own mentors of I ran off and made this change because basically in my mind I thought it might be better.
Mm,
But when I do that, if I haven't clearly mapped out in advance the reason for it, then often what can happen is that I actually just break something that isn't broken because I'm running off usually on shiny object syndrome, distraction. I saw somebody else's landing page that was better. I watched a YouTube video that told me to do something different and then I just ran off and did it because I'm kind of because it's addictive
Mm,
and because that's how the entrepreneurial mind is, that's the blessing. We're creative, we take risks, we want to do new things. But the downside, like everything has its downside, the
mm,
downside can be that you actually strike gold on a working system and you become your own worst enemy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's me.
You and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both, trust me. So then really what this problem usually becomes is the stress you're feeling,
Mm,
and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll speak for myself. I often create my own stress by thinking that I should be doing 25 things
yeah.
when really all I need to be doing actually is two. And so the problem that I have to solve is how do I discipline myself, my mind, engineer my environment to make sure that I don't run off doing all of this stuff. That's the actual problem,
Mm,
which is still a problem, by the way.
yeah.
But at least let's get clear on what the issue is and then come up with a plan to fix that. And then this just keeps going. But then how do we basically run interference on ourselves and do damage prevention, which a lot of
Mm,
entrepreneurs do to themselves because they can't just stick to one thing.
yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's definitely true. I definitely needed to hear that. Yeah. Okay, so don't change anything. Don't worry about getting another in-call or anything like that at the moment. Just keep because I'm staying at the district apartments at the moment,
Mhm.
and they're quite expensive. Yeah. So just keep staying there and just working out of there?
Correct. Don't practically change anything that has generated this, which is currently highly likely going to lead to this.
Okay.
Do that for a consistent period of time, like at least 4 weeks,
Okay.
without making any changes. Like, sure, it might be expensive, but like, what are you spending like 250 a night on it?
Yeah, it's costing me anywhere between 1,200 and 1,500 a week.
Okay. Well, I mean, on these numbers, you still end up with worst case scenario 16 grand.
Yeah.
Again, we could be tempted to, I'll go and get an in-call, I'll do this, I'll do that. Firstly, there's going to be upfront cost. It's going to take time. So you'll be not working while you deal with all that shit. And this 17.5 will not be 17.5. And then we'll be freaking out because the income's gone down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's just a distraction right now. It doesn't mean that there won't be a time to get the in call. Like, let's make sure that this isn't a fluke. Like, 2 days is not a long time.
Well, the interesting part about this profile is I've actually gotten a lot of bookings as well and a lot of inquiries off the backs of other girls' marketing. I think it's the Coke and Pepsi effect.
Hmm. Cool. Well, look, let's wait and see what happens. My point
Mhm.
is, we want more data.
Yeah, yeah.
We know, like, so far, so awesome. Like, this is a fucking awesome result. And let's just stick at it, do just this, even if you just did it 5 days a week, which I would possibly consider in terms of making sure you don't burn yourself out. Because 117.5 week is great, or 120K week. But then if you fuck yourself, you can't work for a month. Well,
Yeah, that's true.
20K has just become 5K a week, which isn't like bad either.
Yeah.
But you may even want to discipline yourself to just do 5 days,
Hmm.
but do it consistently. I know that you've got your period week, so consider like maybe in a 30-day period, you commit to working 26 days, or you like if your period lasts for 5 days, whatever. You just like tweak the numbers right and then map out for the next 30 days. Okay, which if I'm going to work 20 days in a 30-day period,
Yeah.
that's like 5 days a week. I know that I have to have 5 days off for my period. That gives me another 5 days off. Okay, let's map out the next 30 days of when I will and won't be working
Hmm.
and pace yourself so that you can actually do that full 20 days. And then let's see where you've gotten to financially.
Okay.
If you continue to do 3,500 a day, you'll make 70 grand in 20 days.
I want more than that, but that sounds good though.
Certainly a good place to start
Yeah. Yeah.
in month one. Then at the end of month one, we can sit back and look at what happened. What did we learn?
Yeah.
If we want to go then from 70K to 90K, 100K, then we can look at what problems do we need to solve. But right now, we don't have practical business problems, so to speak. We really have more the risk of you like breaking this system by running off and not continuing to do this.
Okay.
So I think that that's probably the best thing you can do with your time in terms of action is I would map out the next 30 days,
Yeah.
planning for 5 working days per week. So that equals 20 working days in the month.
Mhm.
How many days off do you tend to need for your period?
Usually 5 or 6.
All right. So in the 30 days in your map of the calendar, there'll be 6 clear days that are non negotiable because we
Yeah.
can't control our periods. And then there'll be 4 days left. So you may find that you kind of are doing 6 day weeks with 1 day off, and then you'll have a 6 day gap in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you can plan that out for 30 days and then commit to that and track, and we'll get to the bottom of this in a second, the fact that you either did or didn't do that, as well as track your not inquiries. I think for you with the volume of inquiries, sometimes we have to drop the inquiry tracker.
Yeah. I after the first 5, I just couldn't keep going after that because
Yeah.
it was literally like I'm getting on average around 50 to 100 inquiries a day, like legitimate inquiries. I
Mm.
mean, when I say legitimate, sorry, I mean separate inquiries. But yeah, it's quite a lot.
Yeah. So drop that, but just make sure you track your income.
Yeah, I do all of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So the problem we need to solve really here, let's give it a name. This is our problem.
Yeah.
So we've defined the goal and we know that we're practically on track, but we've identified that a problem that might prevent this from happening is just you making changes that lead to it not happening. For example, I'm going to go get an in call, which will then mean that you won't be able to work the 20 days because you'll be distracted, you'll be this, you'll be that. So it's really the consistency of sticking to the thing that's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the kind of like the problem. We're kind of pre-solving problems in a way based off kind of like historical behavior, which is the classic entrepreneurial issue, is that they're actually on track to hit their goals, but then they come up with basically a list of 20 things to go do. That takes them away from the primary task that's currently working. And then 30 days later, they've not made any money and they wonder why. And they think, fuck, I've been doing all these things. Then what do? They create a new list of another 20 things, of another new things to do, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely me.
Totally, totally. You and me both. And so what I'm pointing out is you don't need to do any of that. You just need to do this. And
Mhm.
maybe what you consider is, like, for example, an obvious something that happens with people a lot is they watch YouTube videos that tell them to do different things. And then they come to me and they're like, but Isabel, I watched this video and it says do this. And my answer to them, and I know this because I do it for myself, is stop watching the videos. And so what they actually have to do is discipline themselves. It's like the person who, oh, Isabel, I can't help but eat the Nutella jar. Like, and that's why I'm not losing weight. And my answer is don't buy Nutella. Like, don't have it in your house.
Yeah.
Let's not try to resist the Nutella once it's there. Let's stop it from ever happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm going with this is you know yourself best. There will be triggers. There is behavior that happens before you get to this point, this messy point where you start thinking about 25 things to do. And I say this all with love because this is
I
me.
know. I know, I
Cool.
know.
Awesome. But there's stuff that happens before this.
Yeah.
And a common one is I was watching this video and then I thought I had to do this and I thought I had to do that. And so we actually want to stop it before it gets to this point.
Yeah, a lot of mine is just from past experience and what had worked for me in the past, but at that time, though, I wasn't obviously where I'm at right now, where I'm getting this volume. I had sort of started building up to the point where I started to get quite a lot of volume, a high volume of clientele. And so I had a VA that I had hired to manage all my SMS.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things I think I put down in the possible solutions
Mm.
and was a VA and then an in-call. So obviously I don't have an in-call, but I just somehow I rationalized that it would be easier if I had a place to go to where I could just set my table up and set everything up. So I could just go there and stay there and sleep there and work the whole time, or go there when I get bookings and then come home.
Mm. Yep, I hear you. Okay.
Those were the two main ones that I was really just someone to manage my bookings so that I can just come out and be like, okay, I've got this booking next and this person likes this type of fetish or whatever. And then I guess giving my brain a break from all the admin work was probably one of my biggest concerns or challenges. And then, yeah, having my own place that I could just work from and being available more.
Okay. Let's start with the VA.
Hmm.
When you give your brain a break from the challenge of dealing with the clients, you will now have the challenge of dealing with an employee. We just trade issues, and employees
Okay.
cost money and they never convert clients as well. So you'll make less
Um,
and they'll cost you money.
oh, okay.
And now you'll have to take time to train them. You'll also have to review their work. You'll also have to talk to them. You'll be less available. They won't convert as many clients and you'll be paying them. So this 7K in 2 days will not happen if you have a VA.
Mm, okay.
It doesn't mean a VA at some point isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
It's just that right now, if the primary goal is to maximize income, the best things that you can be doing is map out the next 30 days so that you
Yeah.
can maximize your availability while giving yourself genuine time off so you don't burn out and time off around your period. And then just do what you've already been doing. So deal with, like, respond to as many inquiries as you can, convert people on the phone, and work from where you're currently working.
Okay.
That is literally all you need to do for 30 days and track your bookings. So duration, style, how much they paid, and whether they were new or repeat. And at the end of 30 days, what we want to look at is the revenue data and did stick to her 30-day plan.
Okay.
Because the 30-day plan of basically 20 working days and 10 days off, 6 days for period, which we can't avoid, and 4 days to ensure that you don't burn out,
Yeah.
that's your current plan.
Yeah.
And at the end of the 30 days, we need to know, like, did you stick to that? And then we need to know, like, if no, why? So, like, keep that data.
Yeah.
So basically, our actions here are map out next 30 days, 20 working days, 10 days off, 6 for period, 4 for rest. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Commit to manage phone and take bookings exactly as you have been.
Okay.
Changes. And record revenue slash booking data.
So with recording the revenue and the booking data,
Mm,
that's just like through Timely, yeah?
yep.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, cool.
And so, what you might consider doing for yourself is turning this 30-day plan, once you've mapped out your 30 days, into a daily habit plan for yourself. That will particularly help for people like us who are a bit ADHD in our brains that always feel like we need to be doing something.
Yeah.
Like, I map out at the end of every week my next week, and then I map out every day. And I'm just like addicted to looking at my to do list. It's really like bizarre, but at least I'm looking at my to do list 25 times a day rather than thinking of 25 new things to do. And on my to do list, it tells me exactly what I'm allowed to do. And I can't do anything else but those things.
Yeah, yeah.
So you might have a little, I'll show you this, girls. I'll just stop my screen because I have to go into her folder.
Okay.
Had another girl do something like this, and she had a daily, well, a few girls doing it actually, daily habit tracker for themselves, where it's very clear every day. Like, we do not need to think about all the different things to do every day because actually there's just one list. Here we go. Now, don't worry about the items on her list because they are
Mhm.
specific to her. But after we went through this process together, she literally only had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven things that she was allowed to do every day. And even one of these things, recontact, isn't a daily thing. So she literally
Mhm.
just has to wake up and get herself ready so that she can take bookings.
That's actually a really cool tracker.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And
Yes,
then she has to, because she work from home, make sure her place is ready to take bookings.
yeah.
Then she needs to ensure that she's available. Then she needs to ensure that all her ads are live.
Mhm.
Then she needs to ensure that she replies to her inquiries. And then the platforms she was using, you have to bump them all the time. So then she just has to bump them. That's literally all she has to do every day, just that.
Okay.
And then every day, at the end of the day, she sits down, she asks herself, did I do these things? Tick, 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 or cross. And then when her and I review this at the end of the month, we look at like how many ticks do we have? Like, oh, there's a bunch of X's here. Why? What happened? Oh, well, this happened. Okay, we're gathering information to make future decisions on. Like maybe she tells, for example, this girl in particular has insomnia, right? And I've dealt with that. It's fucking shit. And so she has a bunch of crosses in hers, but then we talk about it and we go, okay, I have insomnia. Well, if she didn't have insomnia, she would have done these things. What should we do? Like, what's the primary problem that we currently need to fix if I'm her?
Mm,
It's fix the insomnia, right?
yeah.
And then, of course, we have to like consider how we do that. And there'd be different ways, because insomnia is not easy to fix. So we might have different hypotheses about how to better manage work around the insomnia. But at least we're actually using real stuff that's happened based on her situation. Then we come up with our hypotheses to fix it. And then we determine what we're going to do. We figure out how we're going to measure it, which is the habit tracker and recording revenue. And then we commit to actually doing that. And at the end of the period, we look back and say, what happened?
Okay. All right.
How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. And simpler is always better. Like usually when I do this with somebody, I get a list of 10 things and I tell them cross off five. Like you just have to cross off five. Oh, but I have to. Nope. Cross off five. Better yet, cross off seven. Give me
Oh my
three.
gosh.
Give me just three.
Oh my gosh. My anxiety would probably not be able to handle that. But it's actually better for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be hard at first. And look,
Yeah.
if you're at 10 and we get to five, that's a massive win. So
Mm.
got to take baby steps. I don't know. I work with people who have the opposite problem. They're doing nothing. And I have to take
Oh,
doing one thing to doing three things. Everybody's at a different place.
okay. So with the inquiries though, like if one of my main tasks to do for the day is to just respond to every inquiry, like
Mm.
how do I manage all of that? Do I just be really ruthless and just only go straight to the ones who are ready to book now with a deposit and then go back through my text messages and respond to those who could be a maybe? Like, because it's obviously time consuming and energy consuming trying to convert people that are not sure. I mean, I can do it, but it just takes time.
I would do exactly what you did in the 2 days where you made 7 grand. And yeah, that does mean talking to people, some for longer than others. Like, what did you do in the last 2 days when you were faced with those issues? Like, you had 50 to 100 inquiries. You would have had to make some tough choices, right? How did you do that?
Well, I just tried to prioritize who was ready to go first,
Hmm.
and then I missed a lot of them because I didn't get back to them sooner. Yes, I think there was probably maybe 10 that I missed that I didn't secure because I just got back to them way too late. Like, I mean, like nearly 10 hours too late. And then the next thing I did was got on the phone call with some of them who were unsure and just closed them over the phone.
Okay. The people that you missed, did you miss them because you were in bookings? Like, you just couldn't reply?
I missed them because I was either in a booking or when we were going through the whole deposit thing,
Hmm.
either I didn't get back to them sooner because I had to go to a booking,
Hmm.
or yeah, it was because I couldn't get back to them sooner, so I would send them the information and say, like, like, I require a deposit because you're coming to my house or whatever, and
Mm.
then they'd be like, "Okay, cool, send me the details," but I would send that text and then shoot to a booking, and then I'd come out, and then there'd be, like, 100 other messages, and I'm like, "Fuck, which one was it?" So I'd have to go back all the way through my phone and try to remember which one it was, but I had forgotten because there was just that many coming through.
Okay, understand. We can't solve all problems at each stage, and doesn't matter where you're at. There'll be just a different set of problems. Like when you level up and you make more, like you have now, right?
Mm.
Problems don't go away. We just have new ones, but we can't fix everything at once. So I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying. And it's
Mm.
good that you're aware of this stuff because in
Yeah.
30 days' time, when we speak again, maybe that will be the right time for us to solve those problems.
Mhm.
Right now, just keep doing what you're doing. Like
Okay.
you have to perform the service, right? So, yeah, there are going to be times where you cannot respond to people.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen. Like I said, if we were to run down the rabbit hole of how to fix that,
Mhm.
going after a VA, because I've done that, I can tell you now that it's not going to be the thing that gives you 10 to 20K in the next week.
Mm.
You'll go backwards before you go forwards.
Okay.
And that's not where you want to be right now, right? You just want to keep moving forward financially. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. The only thing I'd say is, and you mentioned it down here, if you don't already, if you have a copy paste message for that stuff, that could mean that you do it faster. You might have a copy paste message which says, I'm sorry, but I'm like basically BRB, I'll get back to you in an hour. You might have a copy paste like that. You're not going to
I do.
save all the
Yeah.
inquiries, you'll still lose some of them, but you might
Mm.
save some of them because you don't all of a sudden go cold.
I've got tons of templates and I've labeled them all as well, like what they're all for specifically. And then I've also
Right.
got the auto replier as well. Like I've got all of that, but
Okay.
yeah, I was still losing them.
Cool. And so look, good, you've already tried that and you see like there's just never a perfect system. But
Yeah.
right now, if you just do this for another 20 days, there's a good chance you'll be at this, maybe even more. Who knows?
Yeah, that's cool.
Where's your head at?
It feels a lot less stressful now. A part of me, my mind is still thinking about an in-call. Oh my goodness. I think because sometimes with like if I don't book early enough, the accommodation goes. Like I think that's probably why, because sometimes it can be quite stressful.
Well, if you're mapping out your next 30 days,
Yeah.
do you have to make payment at the time of booking? Do they let you book and then pay on the day?
No. No, they take it then and there on the spot. So as soon as I book it, literally within an hour, usually it gets deducted from my account, and there's no refunds
Mm.
or transfers, so you can't transfer it to a later date.
Well, you might consider if you map out the next 30 days and you know pretty clearly when you're going to be working, you might just consider trying to have the place booked like 7 days in advance. It's worth the money, right?
Yeah. I was just being a tight ass. I was just thinking about I could get an apartment for like 450, 500, and then that's, like it's gonna be so cheap. Like I was just being really tight.
Well, look, I don't think that's being tired. Like, that makes total sense. But this is what's actually going to happen. You have to
Mm.
go look at places. You have to submit applications. Then you have to furnish it. Or maybe you've happened to find somewhere that's furnished, but there's going to be less of those options available. So in the next 30 days, you won't spend 20 days working because you'll spend time going to apartments, filling out applications, figuring out this, having to get the bond together. So it's not a bad idea. I would just say it's not a now idea. If in 30 days you've made 70 grand, you are going to be in a position to make so many more choices. There'll be more options. And like probably what I would say
Mm.
is do it for another 30 days and make another 70 grand or more, and then
Yeah.
put 50 grand behind you and take a bit of time off. Do it stress free. You know what I mean? Like, but Don't jump to it. And plus, if for some reason this doesn't work, if we look at this in 30 days and you've done everything right, but you haven't made 70 grand, something majorly different has happened, well, then you'll be really glad you didn't commit to that apartment because now you've got a fixed costs. You know, it's unlikely to happen, but why commit to that right now when you really don't need to?
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I mean, you have had, I'm so pleased your health is in a great place,
Oh, fuck
but the
me.
last little while has been pretty rocky for you, right? Like there's been times where it hasn't been, and it's probably been good that you didn't have fixed costs like apartments at those stages.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad I waited, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like we don't know, and that's why just test this for a little bit, and in 30 days time, you'll have clearer information about where you're at, and more importantly, you'll have money behind you so that you could
Yeah.
take on an apartment. You might like find, in 3 months we might be having a conversation where you've made, let's just call it 70 grand, 70K per month. Sure, you spent 6 grand a month on accommodation, but you're up $64,000 a month. That's what, 180 grand. You've got 180 grand
Mm,
behind you. I appreciate you might have some debt you're trying to pay off, but if you hold back some of that, you'll have a considerable amount of money to sit back and really go, okay, if I take on an apartment and my health does all of a sudden go backwards, which is a thing that we like escorts have to think about, particularly those who have got recurring health issues. This was me when I had female health issues for a year, is you might think, okay, I'm going to take on like a month by month lease. And at the worst case scenario, if I all of a sudden can't work, I know that breaking the lease is going to cost me like 3 grand. I'm going to have to move out. That's going to cost another 5 grand. You'll be able to make an informed decision and know that, okay, I need to have a 10 grand get out of here quick fund so that I'm not stuck to this cost. Do you know what I mean? But you don't want to do it
yeah,
if you don't have the money behind you.
yeah, that's true.